So we're holding now Maimer Yud Ches, Parak Aleph. We'll read the Kitzur, but first I just want to give an introduction. It's going to get very Kabbalistic over here. And I was once talking to someone, and he knew a lot of the terminologies of Kabbalah. And I asked him if he read, it's a known thing, there's a Litvisher guy that he went through a lot of Kabbalah, and he wrote a book explaining where everything is in all of the places. I don't remember exactly what it's called. It's very systematic and it's very ordered and it gives you a good knowledge of all of the terms and where everything sits. So he seems to be very knowledgeable in it. So I said, can I ask you a question? So he said, sure. So I said, where is Atzilus? So he said he was able to say Atzilus is above Bria and it's at the bottom of Adam Kadmon. But practically speaking, where is Atzilus is not a question he was able to answer. For him, it was all a bunch of terms and relations. It was like when you say an imaginary number. What is an imaginary number? It's imaginary. It's safe. It's not a number that's tangible. It's not like I can give you $1 and I can technically give you -$1, which is me asking for $1. But an imaginary number, I can't detract an imaginary number from your bank account. It doesn't work. An imaginary number is a number that you use in the calculations to make something work, but it's not something that has any tangible expression. So for him, Atzilus was also something that didn't have any tangible expression. I didn't, press too much, but I would reckon that it was the same thing with the world of Bria, and the same thing with the world of Yetzirah. Asiya, I'm sure he knows that Asiya somehow corresponds to this world, even though it doesn't quite correspond necessarily the way a person would think, which we'll get to somewhere in the Chafs, I think. But all of these things, it's important to understand and appreciate, and this is what we're going to be going through really, how Hamshach has come down through these worlds, and how it ends up getting from Hashem to us, and how somehow a bracha on Rosh Hashanah ends up translating to food on your table. So this is really the path and the route that we're going to try to be taking. I'm going to try to explain whenever we have something that comes up in a mimer, instead of just saying, this is what it is, that these are the terms and this is how it works, I'm going to try to explain a little bit about how it works in a practical sense. So, anyway, I'm just going to read the Kitzur from the mimer before, and really the beginning of this mimer also has a good summary and recap of where we're holding. So, the Kitzur is that there's a shtus of Balei Asakim, there's a shtus of business people, that they do not establish times for learning Torah, and there's even some business people that don't even daven with the minyan, and they forget the ikar, that it's the bracha of Hashem that makes them wealthy. And we also said, we noted the contradiction in statements that it says that a person's sustenance is cut out for him from Rosh Hashanah, and it also says that a person is judged every day. And we need to reconcile those two concepts. So, in order to understand the contradiction of Maimarim in the concept of the sustenance and the needs of a person, because in one place it said, the Chachamim said, that all of a person's sustenance are cut out for him from Rosh Hashanah until Yom Kippur. And at one point, in one place, the Chachamim said that a person is judged every day. And there's also the statement of the Zayah, Rav Yeva, and every day Rav Yeva would daven that he should be given his food. Even though he had food, it wouldn't be prepared for him until he would ask for it from the house of the king, referring to Hashem, by davening. So we see that there's three concepts. The first one is that a person's sustenance and what he needs is cut out for him from Rosh Hashanah. The second thing is that a person is judged every day. And the third thing is even though everything is set out in front of him, he has the food, it's in his refrigerator, it's on his table, it doesn't make a difference. He doesn't use it. He doesn't use what's in front of him until he asks for it from the house of the king with davening. It's explained in Kuntreis Umayan, Hashem Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippurim, who tikkun nuvinyan hamalchus Atzilus, that the daven from Rosh Hashanah until Yom Kippur is the fixing and the building of malchus Atzilus. This is a concept we're going to explain in further memoirs, so I could get technically caught up over here. I'll just end up explaining ahead. So it's not, but we are getting to this Hashem. Asher b'tfilas and ilah who tachlis aliyah shal hamalchus until that by the tefillah of Ne'ilah, the last davening of Yom Kippur, is the ultimate aliyah of Malchus, the ultimate elevation of Malchus. It rises until, and again we're going to explain this later, until the beard of the Arak Anpin, which literally translates to the long face, but we're going to refer to it as Arak Anpin because it refers to a dagger. So
it refers to what, sorry?
It refers to like a certain level.
Okay.
Like as in, it's not like no one like refers to it as like the translation, which is the long face. It's a certain level. Okay. It's like when you say, I don't know, Netzach, you don't say victory.
Yeah, gotcha.
Netzach.
Okay.
So Shagam b'Shabbos ain't la aliyah, because even on Shabbos you don't have an aliyah like this. B'Shabbos and Salis became Abba, because on Shabbos it rises, Malchus rises to the level of Abba. V'rak Zah is Eir Anpin, which literally translates to the little face. Rak Zah ila ad hadikna. Only Zah rises until this level of the beard of Arak Anpin. When Ila the Yom HaKippurim, but on Ne'ilah on Yom Kippur, Malchus ila ad hadikna. Malchus rises until the beard. Mekabalas Sham Hey Gvoris the Atak Yemen, and it receives over there the Hey Gvoris of Atak Yemen. It receives the five levels of Gvor, the 5 levels of severity of Atak Yemen, which is also something that we're going to explain in the future. So that's Hashem, I'm going to get to it. It's not. I don't like saying terms that are not going to be explained, but these are going to be explained as Hashem. So v'zeu inyan achosim bin ila diyem hakipurim sho inyan ahigvuris atakim, and this is the concept of the seal of Yom Kippur, which is the concept of the 5 gvuris of atakim. We need to understand. Mao inyan ahigvuris atakim shvakaval samalchus v'tfilas ne'ilah. What is the concept of the higvuris of atakim that Malchus receives at the time of Ne'ilah? He asks a very simple question, not just what are these Kabbalistic terms. He says, you mentioned Gvura in there. We know that Yom Kippur is a time that we're asking for mercy, and we get mercy. It's a time for simple mercy. As the rabbis say in Psuk Rav Kahana, that slicha, forgiveness, is entrusted by Hashem, or it's washed by Hashem from Rosh Hashanah until Yom Kippur. The Yom Kippurim because the Yom Kippur in general is a time of simple mercy. And particularly at the time of Ne'ilah, that then it's the time of the ultimate mercy and the ultimate Eisratzim, time that's fitting for Asa, an auspicious time for asking from Hashem, as is known. If this is so, also what is the concept of 5 gvuras that it receives then? And also, what is the concept of the chesam, of the seal? So we need to understand all of these things, and B'ez Hashem we're going to work at explaining it. For now, the concept is the Neidot of Kuntreis Malchus Atzilus. It's known that Malchus of Atzilus is the source of the worlds of Bria and Yitzira and Asiyah. As it says, that Hashem's that Malchus is the Malchus of all worlds. That all worlds, the source of their creation is from the level of Malchus. We're going to go a little bit further, and then I'm going to try to explain this concept. It's really, it's a concept that he discusses until the end of the Eis. Towards the end, I guess we'll get into it more. I just want to have all the concepts in front of us so that we can use them all as examples. It's called the mother of all life. Because it's the source of life. And it's the source of all flow into all worlds. As it says in Paradise, in the gate of nicknames, I guess I would translate it. Erech Chava, that in the Erech of Chava, it's certain that Chava is related to Malchus, because Chava is called Ein Kol Chai, and Malchus is practically Ein Kol Chai, so Chava has a relation to Malchus in that sense. Every day, every day, this midah gives a new sustenance of light and kindness from a higher place into all of the world. This is what we say in Reches Hamazon, benching, that he sustains the whole world with his goodness, with his grace, with his kindness, etc. And as the Chachamim said, that in the third, it groups up the night into different portions. I think it's referring to the night. Maybe it's referring to the daytime, honestly. But in the third grouping of hours, Hashem sits and sustains the whole world from the horns of Re'emim, which is a kind of animal that apparently has very big horns, and until the eggs of lice.
It'd be interesting if it was the first 3 hours of the day. That's when you say Shema.
No, it's not the first 3 hours. It's the third. Shlishi is the third of the day, or of the night. I don't remember if it was the day or the night.
As in, you mean, okay, I understood. Sorry, it's okay.
Yeah. So Hashem sustains from the horns of the Re'emim until the eggs of the lice. That is to say that it goes from the world of Bria and Gan Eden and Gan Eden Elyon until the lowest world of Asiya in this lowly world. Shakal and Avar Nechol and Klal said that all creations are included in this categorization. So the sphere of Malchus, Chaloka Mikol Spheres, the sphere of Malchus is distinct from all of the spheres in this. The sphere of Malchus Naslov and Nikoda. The sphere of Malchus is a point. Again, I'm at the end of this. I think probably at the end of this paragraph, I'm going to explain what's going on with Malchus a little bit, hopefully. So Malchus is distinct from all spheres in that it's a point. And the 9 spheres that are within it, the 9 other spheres, which are all included in Malchus, they all come in as a kind of addition. From the level of Chachma, of Malchus of Chachma, there's Amshacha, so it should become Chachma of Malchus. From the sphere of Malchus Sheba Bina, and from the sphere of Malchus in Bina, Nimshach Liya is sphere of Bina Sheba Malchus. It's drawn that there should be the level of Bina of Malchus, L'chein Kulam, and so on and so forth. We're counting sphere now. We're counting for all of the spheres of Malchus. So it's a little bit appropriate. We've got to explain what's going on with the spheres of Malchus. So that is to say that the and the chayes, the light and the vitality receives from the sphere in the sphere of Malchus from the spheres which are above it. And the source of the Amshacha is from Kasser Alin. This is the concept of building up Malchus on Rosh Hashanah. Because on Rosh Hashanah you have the level of Kesser Malchus, the Ainu Ratzon Melucha, Hashem's desire to rule. It's known and explained in another place at length. Therefore, then is the main the main drawing of light in the level of Malchus. This is the concept of Hashem's desire to rule. So let's explain for a second what it means when we keep on saying that Malchus receives from this level, Malchus receives from that level, and especially this point that it makes, which is that Chachma has a bunch of levels in it. There's Malchus of Chachma. Malchus of Chachma gets drawn directly into being Chachma of Malchus. So, in general, when we say you have a concept of Seder Shalshalus inside of ourselves, Seder Shalshalus is something that we could both appreciate in Reim HaMailis, we could appreciate as it exists when Hashem creates the world. With the notions which Hashem used to create the world, you have a concept of the Ratzon, the Melucha. That's the first. It's like the first Ratzon that exists, and everything else comes from that desire. Hashem used a lot of notions to create the world. He made the concept of an idea. He made the concept of a concept. All of these things are things that Hashem made, and ultimately it all gets channeled down into a neat kind of form once you get to Seder Shalshalot after the Tzimtzum, and you have the Kav, and it's able to go down and it comes down in an order kind of way. And this is reflected in ourselves as well. We have a concept of something that's above his Shalshalot, we have a concept of Ratzin, and we also have things that are in an order. Ratzin also influences what's in Seder Shalshalot, etc., etc. For now, the Iker is that when you have an idea, for example, something in Chachma, not something that's fleshed out as an idea, something just a knowledge that you have in your mind. That knowledge that you have in your mind can possibly go through an entire Seder Shalshalot, go through an entire chain where it goes from just being knowledge, it goes then to being a thought out idea, and then it goes to influencing your emotions all the way down to a point where you want to actually do something, and then maybe it'll go to something else. So when you have an idea, let's say something of Chachma. Something of Chachma is the knowledge that on Shavuos is Kabbalah Satera. So there's a lot of things that can come out of that. There's a lot you could connect the dots with that thing. A lot of that is one dot to be connected to other dots to maybe form something. But for right now, you have that knowledge that Shavuos is the time of Matan Torah. Now that knowledge, just that knowledge, has within itself so much potential. It has so many different details. And it's explained, I believe, in the Sefer Ikrim, that when we say that things have 10 spheres, it's not to say that 10 is just a random number. I mean, technically speaking, everything is just a random thing that Hashem decided He wants. But there's a reason why there's 10, and He explains how every single thing could really be divided up into 10 parts in its essence. In this detail of Chachma, there's really the potential that it has to be connected to other ideas to form a concept. You could connect it, for example, to the fact that things in Judaism have significance, and you connected one dot, and you connected it to knowledge of what you do to prepare for things, etc. And you can start connecting these things to have other ideas, and that would be how you would connect it to Bina. But within that idea itself, it's not that the idea itself, the one singular point of the idea, is a whole understanding. It's that it has within itself the node that could be connected to everything else. It has within itself that potential. So the idea itself is not that. The idea itself has within itself that potential. Now, besides for that, it also has, ultimately, the sphere of Chachma is going to give into the sphere of Bina. It has that node for potential that it's able to be connected. There's the fact that it could be connected to Bina, and then ultimately, there's a point that Chachma, that this idea, could be pale. There are things that can come out from this knowledge. What it is, good question. It doesn't have any relation to that in the idea. The idea itself doesn't lead to a person staying awake at night. If you would say that this idea contains within itself the notion of a person practically speaking, as in you have an idea that exists in the theoretical realm of ideas, like you have 2 + 2 = 4 as an idea. If you would say 2 + 2 = 4, if I hit you over the head hard enough with 2 + 2 = 4, you'll stay awake for a long time, it doesn't make sense. And if I hit you over the head with this idea that Shavuos is Kabbalah Satera, there's no relation to a physical world to say that it can then go ahead and influence that a person should, practically speaking, stay awake at night. However, within the Chachma, there exists the aspect of Malchus. There is Malchus of Chachma, which is that this Chachma is able to give way to lower levels, and it's able to be mashpia to them, it's able to affect them. This level of Malchus of Chachma, through the entire Shalshos, when the Chachma gives into the Bina, which gives into the Das, which gives into the Chesed, the Gvura, Tiferes, and that's what you said, it comes down to Malchus, and Malchus, what it does is from all of the spheres that are above it, it collects the level of Malchus that they have within themselves. When it has this collection of the 9, whatever this thing is able to affect, we don't know how it does it, we don't know how it affects it, we don't know how it builds it. But ultimately, you have this level of Malchus, and it's able to, well, what Malchus does is it collects these 9 aspects of Malchus from all of these other things, until finally you have Malchus of Malchus, the lowest of the low of the whole thing of spheres, and that is able to actually have an effect on a lower level. However that is. Sometimes when you have an idea, the whole thing of the Shalshos will be to bring it into another idea, that you'll get to a new understanding. And then that'll bring to a new understanding. But whatever it is, every level is a distinct entity from the next. And usually when you say that you have a new idea, usually it's all going on in Mechin. When you say Mamash, you have a whole Seder Shalshos with emotions, etc., usually the effect that it brings out is something that's more distinctly removed from the next level. If you would want to say, you could also bring more of a Gashmistic mashal, just because there's the concept that we had in last week with Yesod. When you have a pen, in the pen, there's a lot of different components. You have especially nowadays. Back in the day, I feel like it was more simple. Nowadays, you have all these fancy pens with the spring and but a simple pen. You have the body of the pen that you hold onto it. You have the ink. you have the fact that you have a person that's behind the pen, which is a very big chiddush. Pens on themselves are not that chashuv. If you just have pens and a bunch of animals and a bunch of plants in the world, it wouldn't be anything too impressive. You have the person behind the pen. You have the handle of the pen, and you have the nub of the pen at the nib. I don't know exactly what it is.
The ball point, like where it actually writes, or the other side?
In my mind's eye, honestly, I was thinking more of like a quill. So like the thing at the end. Yeah. But you have
the tip. The
tip of the pen, which holds the ink. Back in the day, the pens, they had like a little slit, and they would hold a little bit of ink, and you would write for a few words, and then you would dip it back into the. But even regardless, you could have a ballpoint pen as well. You have the tip of the pen, then you have the ink that's on the tip, and then ultimately you get to the level of malchus. So in the way of example that we'd be explaining, by the way of example we'd be explaining is that you have an idea that exists in a person's mind. It's able to influence into the hand. It's able to influence into the body of the pen, which influences the tip, which influences that it should scratch on the paper with the ink, and that ultimately you have something completely new, which really is completely reminiscent of the thing that was going on in the person's mind. Something going on in the person's brain got expressed onto a piece of paper, which is a fascinating thing. The minute notions on the tip of the pen, can you say that tiny little motions of the hand contain a complex idea that a person thinks? In a sense, it does. What it does is it collects that this idea ultimately lent itself into the idea. It can be expressed in words. And the understanding could be expressed in words. It had that aspect within itself that it was able to be expressed. And the hand moving had the aspect that it's able to express itself with a little tnuah, with a little motion. And the pen also expresses itself and that it's able to write words. And then ultimately the malchus at the tip of the pen, if you will, it collected everything, all of this thing that the idea is able to be expressed, the hand is able to be expressed, the pen is able to be expressed, and ultimately it expressed it into literally an idea, a written word on a page, maybe a maimer chassidus, maybe something more narish, but it got expressed into something. And this is what we mean when we say that malchus is able to collect things. It collects all of the spirits involved and it's able to express it. So this is the concept. Hopefully at least we got this concept across, and we're going to try to rush to finish the rest. B'chol Rosh Hashanah, nimshach HaChadosh me'ein seif baruch hu l'midas malchusi yisbarach al kol Hashanah kol al achis oilemes briyas yirasiyah. So on Rosh Hashanah we draw a new light from Ein Seif to the level of malchus. Hashem's malchus for the entire year, so that Hashem should give chayas to Bria, Yitzir, and Asiyah, the zonam ul parnasam, to sustain them and to give them parnasa. She'er v'chayas zeh hu kailul chayas olam shana nefesh shel kol shana kola, because this er and chayas gives vitality to the whole world, to the nefesh of the whole world. El the Rosh Hashanah v'kasa adayin shemachos v'nalam, but on Rosh Hashanah it's still hidden and concealed. V'yem Kippurim yimshach v'kinas hamshach v'gilei l'mayla, and on Yom Kippur it draws down a level of revelation from above. Sukkot su liyem chagenu shemshach v'gilei yeser ach v'kinas makiv, and on Sukkot this is drawn down in a more revealed way, but it's in a way of makiv. V'shmini atzeres yimshach v'kinas primius, and Shmini atzeres is drawn down in a way of primius, in a way that we can appreciate it more internally. This is the concept of Shmini Atzeres collecting. This is a concept which is more nagea to Sukkot than it is to Shavuos. I mean, this whole thing is more nagea to Rosh Hashanah than it is to Shavuos also. But I'm trying to rush it, so we're a little bit late. Shmini Atzeres v'acher kach nimshach al yidei b'chinas malchus v'chol yom v'yom v'gilei l'mata b'elemes bria yitzira asiyah. And then afterwards it's drawn down the level of malchus every single day in a revelation below in the world of bria yitzira and asiyah. V'zeu b'chinas hamshachas chassid alyin shenimshach b'chinas keser b'chinas chasadim da'atik b'chinas malchus b'shashana v'yom kippurim b'chinas malchus nimshach v'ol elemes. This is in general the concept. I think tomorrow maybe when we do the kitzur we'll have to explain a little bit more, because I feel like there's more to be brought out over here. But this is, we didn't get into the concept of the Hei Gvuros. We said in Yom Kippur we have a concept of the Hei Gvuros that goes into Malchus. We didn't explain that yet. But this is the concept of Chesed that gets drawn down into the world from Rosh Hashanah through Yom Kippur. Any questions?
So are we saying not the only way, but the main way in which light is brought into Malchus is by davening on Rosh Hashanah, or it's also acts?
No, so there's a lot of things that are blowing the shofar from Rosh Hashanah. All of these
That's
things.
What I'm saying. Like the additional mitzvahs that come with it, is it just davening, or is it also the additional things that you do on Rosh Hashanah?
It's a very good question, and this is something that's discussed in Samach Vav. what it is that causes it's. I would say it's davening. I would say it's the davening. I would say it's the shofars. I would say everything together has it, but what effect each thing has is more nuanced than.
Yeah.
Then maybe I could say it on one foot, but not before Shachas, which we're already getting late to. So anyhow, Atzilus, the Kitzur, Atzilus, Sferas Malchus, we say Cherish and the Koda Achas. Atzilus, the level of Malchus comes from Atzilus in the level of 1 point. And Rosh Hashanah is the binyan. Rosh Hashanah binyan of Malchus. Tasfiris Shalamayla. Rosh Hashanah is the binyan of Malchus that it receives from the Tasfiris that are above. Sherish Hamshachim Keser Malchus, and the source of the Hamshachim is from Keser Malchus. Shem Rosh Hashanah Adayin Chusa V'Yom Kippurim is Gala. That on Rosh Hashanah it's still hidden, and on Yom Kippur it's revealed. The Sukkah is b'makif, and Sukkah is expressed in makif, and Shmini Atzeres b'klita, and Shmini Atzeres is gathered. Limshachal is Sferas Malchus, and it's drawn through the level of Malchus. To be continued, Thank you.